Hey guys, Brent Hull Build Show. Going to show you today how to elevate your doors, how to get a great historic detail called a Crossetted Corners. Come join me today on the Build Show. Okay guys, so today's video is sponsored by Kuken and Windsor. I designed both their molding lines. They're classical molding lines. They're based on historic precedent. They look awesome, so I'm using their moldings. In fact, most of the moldings you see in these demonstrations are Kuken or Windsor moldings. Okay, so a cross-headed corner, right? I was at a client's house the other day and looked around and noticed in their 1930s house that their door openings had a cross-headed corner. Now, what is a cross-headed corner? A cross-headed corner it's an historical detail that you see that basically this kicks out about an inch and then runs over and kicks back in. Now, there's two different ways of doing this, but what it does is when this kicks out like this, it elevates the door, it gives it broad shoulders, it gives it strength. And so I'm gonna show you the way to do two different types of cross-headed corners. Let's go. The first type of cross-headed corner I'm going to show you is one that just requires 45s. This one will do with the Kuken Greek Revival molding. Come check this out. All right, so basically what I'm going to do here is our door is going to kick out right here. Now, I've got to determine what my ears are, what these horns look like. Right now, the one I just sketched up there is about 10.5, 11 inches, okay? That is pretty nice. In fact, you might step back and go, that looks actually a little bit big when I step back, so I'm going to go up to about 8 inches, right? So maybe 8, 9 inches in here, okay? Now, in order to do that, what's happening is there's actually a 45 that goes this way. This piece cuts out, a little small sliver, and then this 45 goes up that way, and then cuts right back in just like this. So it's not a very difficult molding to cut, but I'm going to show you what we're doing right here. So if I say that I'm going to take my piece, I'm going to measure to the outside, I want to be 8 inches down, right? So actually I'm going to do 9 inches down. So I'm going to measure up and I'm going to cut this kind of odd 45 at 73 5/8, okay? So I'm going to check my measurement, see how I did. And that's 73 5/8. So that's my first cut, right? My second cut is I need to kick out this way. I got my first leg, right? I'll put it over here and I'll glue it up on this table. Now, right, I've got to go this way. And so I've got to determine what this dimension is and how far it kicks out. Now remember, I sketched this up here, kind of a loose sketch, and I'm probably, you know, that's an inch and a quarter out there. I'm just going to go an inch, okay? So it's not quite as big. Sometimes I've seen them as big as 2 inches, right, on really big openings, but I'm scaling it down because it's not a huge door. So I'm going to go an inch. What that means is I'm going to cut this 1 inch, right? It's going to kick me out that way. So now we've got it kicked out, right? So if I put this over here and kind of practice and see it in my head, yeah, I'm kicking this out and I'm going to take an inch off this thing, right? So now I've kicked myself out an inch, right? There's my 45 kicking me out. Now I'm going to go back up this way and then come across. I know we came down 9 inches, right? So I know that this back cut comes up here 9 inches. I'm going to measure that. Sometimes I don't hook the tape measure on the back, and I sometimes will measure from 1 up to 10 as a way to make sure that I'm not losing anything in this slack right here. But I just checked it both ways, and that's 9 inches. Now remember, the other cut's going to come this way. So I'm actually going to come back this 45. So now we come in here, right? What this does is it creates a little square in here, which is a pretty little detail. And sometimes you'll see in historic photos, and you even saw it on our example from Winter Tour, that they actually have a carved piece that sits right in here. But that little square is pretty typical. And then this runs across, there's my header piece across the top. Now what I'll do is I'll build both sides and then I'll measure that top piece and be able to drop it in there. Sometimes when you have really big moldings, you'll feel the molding slip a little bit on the wall as the blade goes through it. It kind of wants to skate. So when I feel it do that, I actually will put it right down, right up to the blade again, right? So I'm only just taking off a little bit. And I'll come back down to make sure it's tight, right? Because I want to make sure these 45s are tight, and that really helps. So now I'm going to take another inch off, right? Because I want to move it an inch. This one will kick us out, right? And go up 9 again, right? And we have our both sides. So there I've got my two sides, right? I've got both cross-headed corners. These lines are gonna run up like this. I'm gonna glue these together. I'm gonna use this pure glue. So just because it's fast and quick, it works pretty good. I'll hold it together. I'm just kind of building samples here, right? This isn't production work, but this is gonna hold it together real well for our video. I'm gonna show you how big a difference this way. I'm just gonna tack this on here. Then I'm gonna measure from my top. And I'm roughly trying to make sure that's square, 41 5/16, 7/16. So I'm gonna get this here. And remember, I was measuring to outside. So I'm gonna get my 45 here. I wasn't measuring to the inside point. I measure here. And I'm just going to make sure that I have that 47 7/16 right before I cut it. Leave that square. No, I said 41 7/16. Good thing I checked. All right, so now we come up in here, drop our header in here, see how we look. Let's go glue it up on the table. Should be good to go. Okay, so now we've got a cross-headed corner door, right? It's a little bit more elevated. It's a little bit more fancy, if you want to say, and not too hard, right? 45s all the way. That's the first method. That's the easiest method. Remember though, it does create this little square right here, which is a decorative opportunity, a place that you're gonna have to hide behind the jamb, because if your jamb leg's coming down, you're gonna have to hide that. Historically, that's a good precedent. Historically, it's pretty common, but cross-headed corners, style 1. All right, so style 2, okay, is a little bit different in that it's very difficult to make the style 2 if you have a single part casing, right? This casing right here, in order to make it look right, I've got to rip off this back band so that my back can expand, right? Because that's what's happening here, is instead of creating these 45s, I'm really just building the lower part of the casing and the back band's kicking out underneath it. You can see that in that Charleston room, what's happening. But that was what happened with this one, is that we had to build onto the back of this, right? We had to build onto the back of it, and then we had to rip this off and then put this back on. So it's a lot more steps. It's a lot of half cutting and a lot of steps. Now, with Windsor, their classical colonial, right, which is a federal style deal, it's much easier because it's in 2 parts. So we can take the first part, and what you're going to do is you're only going to 45 the back band. This doesn't change except at the corner, right? So if I just cut this at a 45, right? I've cut it at a 45. And so what's going to happen now, this is the height of the door and my header is going to run across there. But what I'm doing is I'm going to run that back band up, I'm going to kick it out and then come up over top of it and then go around. So my cross-setting corner really only happens with the back band, okay? So now I can take this piece, same thing here, right? I've got a simple thing with my back band, right? And I need to figure out how long the horns are going to be. So the same thing here, I'm going to run my casing up, I'm going to kick it out, and it's going to run over here, right? So I'm going to glue this piece to here and kind of lock this all in. Now I want to come down about, let's just say 10 inches this time. I'm going to cut this piece off about right there so that my back band runs across it, right? It all works right. So now I've got my landing spot, right? And so now I can glue this together. Now I'm just doing the same thing I did before. I'm running my back band up, I'm going to 45 it, kick it out, run it up, and that's how you make your cross-headed corner. Now look, this is going to be a big flat spot here, right? And so this grows in proportion. Now you can change that because this is a big molding, right? This is a 5.5-inch molding, which is historically appropriate. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play with this back band, where this back band sits on here, and because of how the size of it, I actually may not even need this, but I will need a backer. But see, what's going to happen is I'm going to put it here, I'm going to cut my 45, I'm only going to go out 1 inch, and it's actually going to it's going to be covered like this. The reason I need this back band is to hold up the back side of it. But I'm actually not going to get this far out unless you wanted to make your ears or your horns that big. Realize that you're playing with this molding on this casing in order to play with the proportions. The proportions of this gap to this gap, and that's kind of how they were laid out. So I'm going to start putting this together and you guys can check it out. Now we've got, right, a cross-headed corner showing you what it can look like, right, and how that changes the feel and, you know, taste of this room. We've elevated by using these cross-headed corners. Now we've got two types. You've got the type that 45s, right, and goes around pretty easy, and then this one's actually even easier if you've got a back band. If you don't, you got to go through all that trouble I went through in mine, trying to rip the back band off and then manage all those pieces together. It's kind of a pain. It's going to take a little bit longer. These are two quick and easy methods for get you cross-headed corners. Okay guys, so cross-headed corners, hopefully that helps you out. You got two methods, the 45 method, then adding on that back band. Two things to impress your clients, two ways to show off that you understand how to elevate a room. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Home Nowhere Called Homes. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, sign up for the newsletter. I'm Brent Hull, thanks for watching.